Hi, I'm Shona Keachie from shonakeachie.com. If you're someone like me who wants to be authentic, wants to figure out who you really are, uh, but you don't know who that is, then you might find that reading some of my articles provides some inspiration for you on your journey. About 18 months ago, I started publishing publicly articles that I was writing, and I really was quite nervous about it. And I kind of just took a deep breath and did it after a lot of procrastination because I'm a person, like most people, that has a lot of inner anxieties, and I wanted to get it right. And, I really, in the end, just had to say, you know what, I'm just going to go with it and publish. However, rewind the clock a little bit, and 2 years ago, I was someone who was in a corporate role. I had been working for many years in roles around customer experience transformation, and it was something I was very good at. However, it wasn't something that the corporate world was, or any organisation that I really worked at was ready for. And I just was getting kind of discouraged with it, and I felt like it really wasn't the whole of who I am. But I had no idea who I who was I. That just felt like this mismatch between who I felt like inside and the person that was being portrayed to the outside world. So, really, towards the end of 2014, a few events kind of conspired in my favour, as happens with the universe when you have a strong desire. And I found myself being offered a redundancy package that I, couldn't really have snatched up quickly enough, and took it and ran. And our life has completely changed in that time because I was the super mum who used to get up really early in the morning and take my kids to their childcare for the day, get on an early ferry, head off to the office. I'd be work, and the kids would get picked up at dinner time. I would come home stressed. Their dad would come home stressed. And then, we go through that process of putting young children to bed, and then, suddenly there's not much left of you at the end of the day, but that has to, be your space for doing office emails. So when I compare the person that I was then to the person that I am now, there's been a huge transformation. I can sit here today and happily say to you, I at this present moment, my desire, who I am a writer, and I'm clearly I'm Shona Keachie, and but I love to learn about life. I love to grow. I love to share what I'm learning, and I sat down a couple of months back and I looked back over all my articles and I thought, what is it I actually have to say to the world? And I distilled it into three very simple steps that I've been going through time and time again. And it's still an ongoing journey, but I can tell you for sure that these are the three steps to becoming who you really are. This is the journey to you. And they're really quite simple in a way, but equally, anything that's simple, I used to say this in my job all the time, anything that's simple doesn't mean it's easy. You can equate it to, health. You know that a good diet and that exercising regularly are the staples of good health. That's really simple, but it's not necessarily easy because you are changing ingrained habits and beliefs that are not even conscious to you a lot of the time. So more about that in a minute. So here are the first of the three steps. The first one is tune in. What I found is I really was not tuned in most of the time. I can remember going to a chiropractor because for years I had problems with my neck, my back, and the chiropractor used to say, used to ask me pointed questions about, when would this hurt and that hurt. And I hadn't got a clue because I wasn't aware of what was affecting my body. I really was not present in my own life. I could describe it as I was always, in my head, I was always thinking about what had to happen next. Where was I running to? What was the next meeting about? What was it out of the last meeting that I had to take out and get done? What was it that I needed to buy tonight at the online shopping for our groceries? You know, my mind was always completely absorbed in tasks that had to be undertaken in the future, or things that had already happened that I would be ruminating on in my mind. I really was never present enough to be able to even figure out when my shoulders were hurting. So if you can relate to that, then you will understand that when I say tuning in is something that sounds simple, and it is simple, but you have to make it a deliberate focus when you first start doing it. There are many ways to tune in, but the best way to tune in, honestly, is to meditate. There are many ways to switch off the voice in your mind, and I think if you're a person like me who just seemed to be running and running and running all the time, the thought of sitting and meditating is, you know, if you've ever tried it, you'll think, but I can't stop thinking about things. And I would say to you, that's normal. You know, you can't ever switch off your mind. You can quieten it. And if you can think about the thoughts in your mind as clouds in the sky, this is all sounding a bit fluffy, I know, but you know, it's that simple. Thoughts are things that drift into your mind, and if you notice that you're thinking, that's you tuning in. That's actually you tuning in, because the minute you become aware that you're sitting there thinking about the groceries that have to be done, then you're tuned in enough to know that you're thinking about groceries right now, and that you shouldn't be thinking about groceries right now because you're trying to meditate and still your mind. So don't beat yourself up on it. That's you actually doing the task. So all you have to do is let the thought go. Let it go. Think to yourself, I'll come back to that later. If it helps you, write down the things before you meditate that you know that you have to do, so that you're not, you know, sitting there dwelling upon them. But meditation is not an exercise for you to sit and, you know, figure out all the things that you've forgotten to put on your list either. It is a process for 10 or 15 minutes, no longer than that, because it's not necessary. 10 or 15 minutes a day is what is required in order to build up some awareness within you. It's funny, it's not really a process. I've heard this before from people who are really masters at this stuff, but it's not a process that you can kind of just do once a week, or do it once every day for 30 days and then not do it for 2 months and then dip into it again. You will enjoy the process and you'll get benefit from it, but the real benefit is from the discipline of doing it daily, allowing daily that time for your mind to simply quieten and allow some space into your life, because it's an accumulative effect. And I'll give you an example of this. I've been knowing that I should be doing this for a long, long time. I actually started applying it in a disciplined way 6 months ago in my life, and have meditated every day since. However, a couple of days ago, there was a situation where, my partner had come home from work. He was stressed, and I bit. And I normally, these days, that's not normal for me. That used to be very normal for me, but it's not normal these days. So much so that my kids said to me afterwards, we've never heard you shout like that. And I was thinking, thank God they've got short memories, because a couple of years ago when I was working, I knew that I used to regularly bite. And And so, I was instantly aware that that was happening, and it very quickly dissolved for me. Don't think it quickly dissolved for my partner, but he's a bit more stuck in his mind. But for me, and a really good indication of how day to day the feeling within inside me has changed. The angst is no longer there. There's a piece that sits there. It's almost like my center core. Well, it's not almost like my center core is peaceful, and anytime anything begins to shake that, I'm much more aware of it now, and I'm much more tuned in. So that's step number one. I could talk about that for a long time. I have written many articles on being tuned in because I think it's the first step in your journey to becoming more authentic and becoming who you really are. And it has so many benefits. But if meditation is not the way for you to go, if you think, oh, I just can't, I just sitting there for 15 minutes doing nothing, trying to not think about anything is I just can't, then make it easy on yourself. Go and do activities that you really enjoy doing. I used to do yoga. I still do yoga, but that was the thing that I used to rely upon that would quieten my mind. And my partner goes cycling regularly. I love walks on the beach. I think getting out in nature's the great neutralizer. So if you can get out for walks regularly, if you can go for a swim, anything that you enjoy doing, dancing, writing, anything that allows your mind to just in a positive, healthy way tune in, tune out the thoughts, it will allow you to tune in to who you are. So start there, and then you could work to guided meditations if you think, oh, I really just can't sit and listen to nothing for 15 minutes. Then there are so many guided meditations online, but you really only need 10 or 15 minutes, as I say, and that's what you would be aiming for. Just become aware of how you are feeling, and that starts your journey. The second thing is the one that can be tricky. Feel good. Now, when I say this can be tricky, this is where the subconscious mind plays a huge part in determining whether you feel good or not. We certainly, as adults, we are so accustomed to letting the things that we observe around us dictate the way we feel. So, when I first sort of stepped away from the corporate world and I was at home much more with my children, then, you can imagine being at home with a then 4-year-old and 2-year-old, their behaviours, their tantrums, I kind of had to treat parenting as a spiritual practice to get good with it. I really had to become quite aware and present all the time to get into that mode of realising that I was letting the way that I felt follow from the way that they were feeling and acting, instead of really taking control of how I feel. So step one is I'm tuning in and I'm becoming aware of, when I'm feeling good and not feeling good, and what's affecting me and what's not affecting me. Step two, to take charge of feeling good, is more of a challenge. And I will put that in terms, if any of you have watched, The Secret, or read The Secret years ago, 10 years ago now it came out, and it talked about, how to make all your dreams come true and how to attract anything you want into your life. And everybody kind of went through this phase of creating vision boards and all the rest of it. I didn't know what to really create a vision of, because I was trying to figure out, well, who am I and what do I want in life? But there's a step that they do talk about in there, and that is about allowing things to come into your life, because you have to believe that they can. And in order for you to, if you believe that they can, that's about feeling good. It's really simple. The way that you feel is a really good barometer as to whether you're on track or off track. And I know, the subconscious mind, it's fascinating when you start going into the science behind it. But I'm super aware, with having children coming into the world, of just how they are developing. And you know, your children up to the age of 6 and 7, around about that age, that's the age where they're absorbing everything like a sponge, and it's got nothing to do with what you say. As much as that frustrates the heck out of me as a parent, it's got everything to do with the way energy is moving around them. And you know, it's taken science a long time to catch up with the fact that you know, everything is energy. Even our thoughts are creating an energy. And so, you know, it's common sense to say that it's much better, much nicer to be around happier, more positive people than to be around people who are stressed or depressed or angry. You know, it's common sense to say that those happier, more positive people are going to attract more opportunities into their life. But you actually can own that. You can take charge of that. And as much as we all intellectually know that, I think the challenge for us in that is to make it a priority, to notice, to tune in and notice when we're not feeling good, and then to create more of the situations in our life where we're feeling better. I met up with an old boss of mine earlier today, a lovely lady, and she was telling me how, I mean, she used to be really disciplined about going to the gym every day, and she was telling me, you know what, I've given it up. I didn't enjoy it. You know, going along to this manky old gym at 6 o'clock every morning. I actually love doing my yoga. I love going for a walk. Those are the things I love. I go cycling, and I thought, yes, that's a perfect example of listening and tuning in and doing the things that make you feel good. She's still getting her exercise, but she's doing it in a way now that she loves to do it. And I think the other thing to be aware of, again, there's this is an ongoing battle for me too, so you read about it a lot in my articles, is there are things that you can't decide to just drop from your life. So unless you're deciding, you know, to move out of a house and not have any financial obligations that come with a house, then most of us have to face bills each month, for example. So money is something that constantly confronts us, and it's very difficult to sort of bury your head in the sand around that subject in a way that helps you to feel good. So, you know, I know that the two biggest issues for us as people are money and our bodies. Those are the two biggest issues that completely confront us all the time. And most of what is driving our behaviours in those areas, it's got nothing to do with conscious thoughts. So, you know, as you let me give you another example. When a child is very young, if you're saying to if a child witnesses an argument, say between its parents about money, it might, you know, what it's soaking in as a sponge has got nothing to do with the details of that argument. It's money is bad. You know, money is not a good thing. If a child hears often enough, or sees often enough, or feels often enough the same behaviours, the way that that's interpreted into the subconscious is you know, money is bad. That's a record that plays, and then throughout your life you attract lots of examples that prove that thought pattern, and it becomes an ingrained belief. And many of us, because, you know, well-meaning parents bring us into this world, and instead of being treated as beings that come in with an intention and traits and talents, we get treated as the empty vessels from the get-go, and we are told that, you know, listen to me, I know better. This is what you need to do. And, you know, we want to keep our children safe. I find myself doing it. We want to keep our children safe. We want them to be socially, you know, not outcasts. So that are, you know, I feel like I'm getting better at it, but I am very aware of how often I'm telling my kids what to do. And every time I'm telling my kids what to do, they're hearing, you're not good enough. And that's the record that plays in our minds beyond any other record in our subconscious mind, is you are not good enough. You're not worthy. If you try, you'll fail. There's all different versions of it. And, you know, that's the bit that gets in the way of feeling good. And to the point where, I was trying to observe, I'm really tuning in last year, and I'm publishing my articles and I'm starting to write, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to be a writer. And there's such joy for me in writing. It's such an effortless process for me to write. A thought comes into my head and I think, oh, that's an interesting thought, and I ponder the thought and I think I'll just ponder this thought through an article, and I write an article about it and I learn more about it. And it's sort of an inside out process. And I love doing it. If a day goes by when I haven't written something, there's a feeling of lack in me. And yet, when I started to think about, well, I do writing for a living, well, that wasn't a good feeling. So be careful when you're tuning in. Just discern a little bit when you're tuning in. The fact that I didn't feel good about writing as a vocation in life had much more to do with subconscious tapes playing in my head than the fact that I don't want to be a writer. If somebody had come along and said to me, here's $10,000 a month to just sit there and ponder your thoughts and write, I would have been like, yahoo! But equally, again, the subconscious tapes in my head were going, really? Is that, it can't be that easy, and yeah, you know what? Life is meant to be that easy. So this whole area of feeling good, it's extremely important, because when you feel good, you are lined up. You are lined up for the good things to come into your life. And if you're not lined up for the good things to come into your life, they don't come into your life. So again, I give many examples around this in my writing, and I'm sure you'll benefit from learning some of the trials and tribulations that I've pondered over the last year, because life was meant to be easier than most of us are making it. The third thing, and this is actually a much easier thing than the last topic, and this is called, I've put embrace transience, but there's a word that's out there that people like to use called embrace impermanence. And it's attached to an early example I gave when I was saying that often, we think, when I achieve this, I will be happy. Of course, when you achieve whatever it is, you are by then your thoughts on the next thing. So you have to get round this idea that actually today I am living yesterday's dream, and therefore that's wonderful. It proves that I got exactly what I wanted. Sometimes what you think you want and what you got are two different things, because you have to look at what you're attracting into your life. As I say, if you are focused on this job sucks, then really you're attracting more of what sucks into your life. So you need to just, again, go back to step one, be aware. Step two, start to change how you feel about things. There's many tips and techniques on that. But realise that when you achieve your goals, there's always going to be more. Nothing ever is a state of permanence. Happiness is not a state of permanence. Certainly not while you're alive. So, we came into this life because of the contrast it provides us. I remember thinking this as a child. I remember thinking, you know what, if I felt happy all the time and all there ever was in the world were good things, how would I know that was good? Like, how would I know? It's only when you've been to the depths of despair that you truly appreciate joy in your life. That contrast is something that is evoking to us, it inspires us, it pushes us to constantly seek better feelings. The problem is, of course, when you get stuck more in the contrast, the thing that you don't want, than reveling in the things that you have wanted, that you now have in your life, and the things that you will want in the future and are about to come into your life, if only you'll let them. So accepting that life is not permanent is an absolute must do. It's not intended to be. It is constantly a process of sifting. I don't want this, I do want this, I don't want this. Go for the joy of it. And if you can embrace these three things, if you can tune in, if you can focus on feeling good, and you can embrace impermanence, then I can guarantee you will become you. You will find out exactly who you are. And more than that, you will find out what you want. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given some structure or thoughts or insight. And if you would like to hear more, then please sign up for my weekly newsletter where I share with you the article or articles that I've written that week. And from time to time, I'll be sharing video clips. Thank you.